Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, my guest today is a trailblazer dedicating her career to transforming organizations into thriving, learning, growth, and fulfillment hubs. With a 35-year journey, her commitment to global transformation through people has shaped her into a catalyst for positive change. Recently transitioning into a portfolio career, her impact resonates across companies, nonprofits, academia, and corporate boardrooms. Her mission extends beyond borders, encompassing youth, leadership, disability inclusion, mental wellness, and the fight against food insecurity. So I love it. I'm so excited to chat with her today. You guys are going to be in for a treat. But before we bring her on, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. So now that we've done that, we get to have our guest on the show. This is going to be so much fun. Barbara Spitzer, she's the founder and CEO of Two Rivers Partners, LLC, a consulting firm that prepares nonprofit, small and mid-sized organizations for today's disruptive forces. She aligns businesses and workforce strategies focusing on leadership, culture, human capital, and change, resulting in purpose-driven, large-scale transformation. And also outside of the business world, she's an avid traveler, a scuba diver, an underwater photographer. She's circumvented the globe 5 times, and she's summited Mount Rainier. So she's done a lot of cool things. So Barbara, welcome to the show. I'm so thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's so great to be here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
It's going to be so much fun. You have done so many neat things. And I think that's what's so great about people that are achievers. It's like they don't just excel in one area of their lives. They excel in many areas. And I think that's what makes them so great. And it's so fun to hear the journeys, but also see the parallels, right? Like the parallels in business and in our personal lives and how they sort of all intersect.
Yeah, definitely. And when I listen to you say my introduction, you can tell I'm a 35-year consultant. There's a lot of consultant words in there. And I'm really working on diversifying myself beyond sort of that narrow definition of who I am.
Yeah. Sometimes I know it's hard. We get into those state of minds of who we are. You know, recently I was trying to redesign my business card, and I was trying to, because I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a consultant coach, right? And I was trying to find like a different word for that. And I'm like, what is it that I really do? And I went back through my website and started taking all my words, and I actually went into the chat GPT and started putting them all in there. And I was like, give me a title that summarizes all of this up. And it came back with something like a success architect. And I was like, oh, I love it, because it's different, right? It's like different from saying I'm a consultant or I'm a coach or I'm a success coach. It's more like I'm a success architect or a success catalyst, right? Like helping people create success. So it's fun. We get, sometimes we get stuck in the languaging of what we think we are. And then we have to just sort of kind of figure out, how do we make that shift to encompass some different languaging, right? And so I use Chat GPT, and it was huge for me.
That's amazing. I love that success architect. I think that's
isn't it fun?
Really brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
So I put it on my business card now. I have it on there under my name now. And I'm like, I kind of like it. Then people are like, what's a success architect, right? What's that mean?
Tell me more.
Exactly.
That's what you want them to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to learn more about you or I should say my audience is going to want to learn more about you, because I had the opportunity to talk to you off camera. So I got to learn a little bit about you, but I know they're going to want to know, who is Barbara Spitzer? So tell us a little bit about what it is you're doing now. And then I'd love for you to maybe share how you came to this place.
Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, the term is portfolio career. There's a great book called Portfolio Career, written literally 10, 15 years ago, but it's still very relevant. And by the way, portfolio career is not just for people 60 and over. I've been talking to a lot of people in their 40s and 30s who are contemplating such things. So it just simply means that you don't just do one thing. I was 35 years in large consulting in the human capital arena. I've run practices, accounts, geographies, you name it, I've done it. And, it was great. It was a really great way to earn a living, and it really, did well for me. But now I am doing multiple things, as you heard in my introduction. So I sort of describe my portfolio as 5 domains. And right in the middle, and probably the most important are my 4 F's: family, friends, fun, and fitness. So I love the theater. I love to scuba dive. I'm reconnecting with friends and whatnot. And then around there are sort of 4 work domains. There's Two Rivers Partners, where I do advise nonprofits and small businesses, doing a lot of really fun work. And I am my own boss. The second bucket is my nonprofit. So I'm on 3 nonprofit boards. I just took a chair role of a global nonprofit. I'm the U.S. chair, Restless Development, that trains youth to lead on issues that matter to them. And I'd love to tell you more about that. I am a corporate board director. Secured my first private board seat recently. So applying all my skills to corporate governance. And I am a guest lecturer at my alma mater, Teachers College, Columbia University. I'm starting the program in 2 weeks where I am teaching master's students what it means to be a consultant. So I've put together, this portfolio, and I'm having the time of my life, if not very busy.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I think that's what it's sort of about. When I think of like living the extraordinary, it's really living life on your terms, but it's also living, within your values and doing the things that are important to you, right? And I love that you talked about the bucket where you have the friends and the family and the fun, because I really feel like, I always go back and I think about Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants, and you probably know what I'm talking about when he talks about the whole, where we spend most of our time. And then there's the quadrant that we should spend time in, which is really the us time. It's the personal development, It's the things that bring joy to our lives, right? But we spend most of our time in the procrastination, where putting fires out or helping other people or wasting time, right? And not doing things that add value to us. I really love that you mentioned that. And I like that you said it in buckets, right? Like you have these buckets, because I think that it really gives us an edge when we have these different things that we're doing, right? Like we don't have our eggs all in one basket in one place. We're filling up in multiple ways,
Yeah. Yeah. What's been challenging is, frankly, not taking on too much. When you work for one employer with multiple clients, as I had, you could compartmentalize what you're doing. And now it's like, oh, I have all these things I'm doing, and I volunteer to be the gala chair, and I volunteer to do this. And it's interesting at, sort of the stage of my career to have to learn time management. And so, but, that what also is inside that time is having time to meditate, having time to do nothing, having time to go to lunch in the middle of the day or go for a long walk, and so, you have to, and by the way, procrastination sometimes can be a good thing. I don't know about you, but I work really well under pressure, and I'll worry about something and I'll procrastinate until, okay, I better do something.
Yeah.
And I sit down and I hammer it out. It's like, okay, that wasn't so bad. So, it's a different kind of pressure, and learning how to sort of operate in that way of working has been a big change, a good one, but it's been a change. I'm not saying it's easy.
No, and I think there's truth in that. I mean, when you come from a place of where you are working for somebody, and then you move into that space, now you're driving all of your time and everything. It's a different kind of mindset that you take on, but there's beauty in it because, like I said, you mentioned you really have the ability to do lunch in the middle of the day. You get to call the shots versus somebody dictating your schedule. That has always been my fear. And I've been sort of doing my own thing for 20 something years. So I've kind of had the luxury. I've been able to do that in our household, but I have worked. I had jobs before that where I did work. And that has always been my fear, is to have to be in a place where I have to go back and actually have to have a boss, because I'm like, I don't even know if I could be employable at this point, because I've been so kind of, I don't want to say spoiled, but I've sort of had the luxury of being able to have the freedom to do those things. And so it's crazy because to your point about doing the meditation and taking the time to do all that, like I get up at the same time every day. I get up at 5 a.m. pretty much every day. Saturday, I try to sleep till 6. It doesn't really happen. I'm up every day, but I have my routine in the morning that I do. And I really don't like to deviate from it. And what I mean by that is like if I have to go to a doctor or be at an appointment before a certain time, I'm kind of like, eh. And it's not because I can't get out of bed. It's just because I value my time in the morning.
I love that. I love that. And I need to establish my morning routine, wake up at the same time every day. That's something that I've had to relearn. I was on
Yeah.
my own for 2 years, but that wasn't really enough to really live that life. But
Right.
I love that. A morning
It
routine.
took me a
That's
long
important.
time, just so you know.
Yeah.
I was a
Okay, good.
night owl for like,
Uh,
I'm in my early 50s now. So all the way to like my mid 40s, like I was like the night owl, like would stay up late, get up late.
yeah.
I mean, I always had to get up because of my kids, but I'd go back to bed. Like I'd be like, if they, if I'm like, I'm done, I don't have to be anymore, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go back to bed. But now I can't even sleep in anymore. Barbara, I'm like, I try to sleep. I'm like, I'm not gonna put the alarm on. I'm be like, I'm gonna try. I will wake up. I will be up and I'm ready to go in the morning. Like I got things to do.
Isn't that funny? Well, there's a thing called the 5 a.m. club, and I've not
Right.
really looked into it. But yeah, I'm an early bird. I'm not a night person.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what I said. I mean, it's a neat, there's a book, you might have read it. A good friend had told me about it. It's by the sleep doctor. It's called The Power of When. And it talks about like how our circadian rhythm, like there's 4 different animals. Like there's a lion, a bear, a wolf, and a dolphin. You're probably a lion like I am, meaning we get up, we're ready to go. And like breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And, but it talks about how, based on these circadian rhythms, how we operate. And it tells us like when's the best time to like exercise, sign contracts, do certain
Yeah.
things according to
Yeah.
our sleep schedule. So
Right
like I
on.
always joke and I say, so my husband's a bear, I'm a lion. I always make this joke that the only time that we're really compatible to talk is like on Saturday or Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. because his brain's working and mine's working. Because I'm like 5 o'clock, I'm ready to go. Let's start talking. He is like, no, not ready. And then he'll come in
Yeah.
at 8 and he's like, wants to talk. And I'm like, no, my brain shut down at 7 p.m.
Well, that can work too, A little bit of, little distance and difference is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is funny.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
I tell people about it all the time. I'm like, because sometimes we get hung up on that whole like, like I had a client that kept saying, I need to be up early in the morning, but he was just struggling. And I'm like, when are you most effective? And he said in the evening. I said, well, maybe that's when you need to work is when you're effective,
That's right. That's
So
right.
we get
That's
into
right. I
those.
do my hardest things in the morning.
Me too.
I do my toughest thinking in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, okay. So cool. So you're scuba diving, you got all these buckets and things going on. You said the biggest thing for you has been time management. I don't know, because you came from corporate, you were in that space for a really long time before you moved in here. And other than maybe like the time management, was there any other things that were like, oh my gosh, I had to really make a shift in the way I'm doing my things from how I was doing them from before?
Yeah. Well, I was a partner for 23 years, so I always had people around me, right, to delegate to. And
Yeah.
you know this, when you work on your own, I'm doing my taxes, I'm cleaning up my QuickBooks. It's like, oh man, yesterday I sat down, I didn't get up for like 6 hours fixing it up. And so, I love doing the work, by the way.
Yeah.
I enjoy getting in and digging deep. I'm also a strategic thinker, but I like putting my ideas into action myself. So, but that's been an adjustment. You know, look, I'll share with you, like my planned retirement day from my full-time 35-year consulting career was February 1st.
Okay.
And my former employer accelerated it for me. And I negotiated a package in May of 2023.
Okay.
I was planning this portfolio career, but then I got to really build it, without having to work full time. But there is, there's loss, when you're surrounded by people and clients and you have a leadership role and people need you, they call you. There's a lot of loss in that,
Yeah.
Now I'm a raging introvert. People don't believe me when I tell them that, but I get my energy from inside. And So working like this is actually better for me and my personality and who I am. But I think, I had to realize that my story was my story, irrespective of the fact that I left 6 months before I was planning. And I didn't leave on my own terms, but it took me a while to really get over that and stop being angry and stop feeling like, oh, this isn't how I wanted it to happen. And just said, you know what? I'm going to write down my story. I'm going to define who I am. So I built my website. I built my board bio, and I figured out I want to go get a teaching job and I got to, so once I started moving in like different directions than the day to day of serving clients, selling work, delivering work, building assets, I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And I'm so happy that I got to sort of be paid while I built it. And it happened a lot faster than I thought it would. Haven't achieved every goal that I've set out for myself, but I feel really settled in, and comfortable to where I am, about where I am. And frankly, not that my company was toxic, but it was toxic for me. Like when I had this business and then this firm recruited me, I put my company on ice and went to work for them for 5 years against my instincts. Cause I think this is it can be a toxic way of working for me. I went there. It was great. But there was a certain amount of toxicity associated with it. But you know what? It did me quite well. I have that on my bio, my resume. It's a great company. And I was part of some really amazing practices and work. So, but anyway, that's sort of like arc of your career and how you see it, coming to the peak and what you do afterwards. That's something that I really had thought about. Yeah. But I guess the fact that it was accelerated, having to actually activate it was an interesting transition. I'll just say that.
It's interesting to me too when I hear stories like this, and I have kind of a story similar, a little different, but it kind of same thing where I had to step down from, come off of a leadership position, and it just sort of, I made the decision to do it, but I felt that I had to. And it's interesting, when you're in the moment, it seems like such a big deal. But then when you fast forward and you look back, you can see how it, like you just said, it really spawns this whole outlay of new things for you, and I've shared this on probably several different episodes, but I was at Mary Kay for 22 years. And when I was dealing with a different health condition at the time, and it had just encompassed like 4 years of my life. Like I was at a breaking point, and I had spent 6 months trying to decide, because I was in leadership. So I was in the top 2% of the company, building teams. I had an active client base. I mean, I was doing quite a bit within that mentoring training. And it took me 6 months to decide to step down. And one morning I woke up at like 5 a.m. I rolled over, told my husband, I said, today's the day, I'm letting it go. And I remember being so like heartbroken that day and upset, and I cried. But the next morning when I got up, it was like relief. I had felt like I needed to do that a long time ago. And I just was scared to make the change, like, because I'd been in that position for 15 plus years. It's really all I had known. And that was kind of my career, right? Like I didn't know what I was going to do beyond that. But I look at it now and I think, gosh, like, because all the decisions that trailed after that would have never happened. Like I wouldn't be doing this podcast. All these other things may have never even occurred had I not made that decision that day. So they seem so big when you're in them, but in hindsight, you can go back and you go, no, there was a reason I needed to exit that. I needed to be out of that space.
It takes a lot of courage, but I think when you know.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you. This is my time. Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settle, don't play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line, 8, 7,
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loading. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
Ready to shine.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in the universe, and, for whatever reason, it sends you signals that, this is what you need to go do, and you go do it. And you have to just be listening and acutely aware of, what is going on inside and out. Yeah, that's a great story. And I'm hearing more and more people doing that these days, just saying, I'm kind of done with the 9 to 5 grind, the corporate world. I can do more, and a lot of people of all ages are really considering making this kind of change.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think your priorities change. I think as you get older too, you decide, you know what, it's funny.
Yeah.
You're going to laugh. You're going to love this. So yesterday, I'm just thinking about this. So my watch, it's a Garmin, and this thing drives me nuts. Like, it tracks my sleep, everything. I'm like, stop. I have to stop looking at it because I know when I'm not sleeping by looking at it. But the Garmin on my phone has a new beta app. And so I'm pulling it up yesterday and I'm looking at it and it's tracking all my stuff. And something I was going to tell you about this. I'm like, my brain just went frozen on it. About the Garmin. Because I'm tracking all my stuff. Oh, I know what it was. It asked me, what are the things that are important to me? And it used to be I would put races, my activities. Now you're going to love it. Better sleep, less stress. healthy life, all these things. I'm like, dang, my priorities have definitely changed. I want more sleep. I want to be healthy. I want more energy. Forget the racing right now, but it's like what we're talking about right now, right? Like, your priorities change, and we decide that, our lives, like our health, our well-being, our friends, our family, the relationships, all those things become important to us. And all these other things, if they're not, we have to make money and we have to do things, but we need things that add value to who we are, right?
So I love what you just said. I have been really thinking a lot about the arc of my life. I started out as an army brat moving around, where I really built a lot of resilience and fearlessness, but I also built a lot of anxiety, and insecurities, because I always went into new schools, Then we settled, and then, I went to school, started working. Then at 30 to 60, because I'm in my early 60s, 30 to 60. Okay. That is your wealth creation phase of your life. Now, I know I'm not talking about, I got to make as much money as I possibly can. Sure, wouldn't that be great, But when I look back on it, it's like, no, it's actually what you need to fund 60 onward. Because I think we all sort of hit 60, give or take. We go, oh, I've got more years behind me than I have ahead of me. How am I going to live the years that I have left? With a sense of, this is me, a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, with a health span, like healthfully, because health is so important. How do I control the variables that I can control in my health, and what do I have to change to do that? But for me, it's like making sure that you are thinking about whether you have kids, you don't have kids, you're married, you're not. You may not have the specifics of what that 60 plus is going to look like, but you probably know I'm probably not going to be doing the job I'm doing now.
Right.
And so what do you want to do? And, no one retires anymore at 60.
Yeah. Right.
Make sure that your wealth creation plan includes, how are you going to fund what you want to do? So I love to travel the world. I'm providing services to nonprofits and small businesses that can't handle the huge rates. That's okay. And I am on 3 boards, nonprofit boards, which require giving money. And I'm in academia, which doesn't pay well. Right. So it's not about that, right? So if I hadn't have worked on the wealth creation when it was my peak time, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. So I think sometimes we don't marry the money with our mission. And you have to think about the money, as the journey to earn it. And then what are you going to do with it when you have it? And I just wish more young people were more cognizant of that.
Yeah.
It's not like just making as much as you can, but it's actually funding what you want to do with those years.
Yeah, because it doesn't really matter how much money you make if you don't have anything to show for it at the end of the day. If you can't retire and live and do the things you want to do, then you really haven't done anything. And you're right. That's an excellent point, because you are right. I think we get so hung up on, trying to make more money. But is anything going anywhere? Like, is anything going into anything to sustain, your going forward, and how are you going to live when you retire past? And there's so many, I think now, even, baby boomers that aren't even able to retire these days. They're stuck and they're forced to start a business or get a job or do something because they can't, they didn't plan well.
Right. That's right. So that's, we're looking back, at my younger self. I mean, I was pretty responsible, but maybe I got started a little bit late.
Yeah.
I don't have children. And, I don't plan on leaving my 5 nieces and nephews anything. I hope I spend every penny. But, just like, mapping that journey and knowing where you want to go and where you want to be. I think there's happiness and empowerment in that, as opposed to, I got to keep working. I got to, and I know it's responsibility to put children through college and, be responsible for those things. Those things are really, really important. But it shouldn't be drudgery. It should be, wow, what's going to happen, when I have some more freedom and can do more different, unique things that really fuel my passions.
I feel that's the same, as you're saying that, I feel like that's the same conversation you have when you go like sort of empty nesting. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking in my head right now because my youngest is still in the house, but my kids are all grown now. One's married. The other one moved out in August. And so I got one at home and he's working and going to school. And so it's like the first time in like, we've been married 28 years. And it's like, we have free time.
Yeah.
Like, we have free time now to like do things. Like I haven't had time to do anything since I was in my 20s now. And now all of a sudden it's like, we don't have to be at a soccer field or a lacrosse field in the morning. We can actually go on vacation now. We don't have to organize around schools and all those things. And so I'm listening and I'm thinking about that. It's like the planning and you can look at it the same way, because I think so many people come out of empty nesting and they're like, oh my gosh, their whole life has been dedicated to their kids and they didn't plan for what are they going to do when the kids leave, right? Like what are they going to do? And that is why I'm so thankful that I have always been actively busy in things, because I was home with my kids the whole time. And I was thinking about, had I not had something that was mine, right? That I was committed to doing things for myself, it would be so easy to get wrapped up. And then you go, oh my gosh, my kids are gone. What do I do now? So I think it's a different parallel, but kind of a similar.
Yes.
We
used to throw away the last third of our lives, 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, if you're lucky. We used to throw that away. Oh, they're old and they're this or that. No, it's just as valuable, and we have to think about that and value that phase of life. And, I'm either a late boomer or an early Xer. And I argue more toward Xers because I identify more with that mindset.
Yes.
Right. So, but, it's like there's a Stanford Center for Longevity believes that, eventually we will all live to 100 easily. 100. So why do you get your education in the first 25% of your life? You're, to 22. Then you stop learning?
Yes, exactly.
Why do we retire 2/3 into it? Why don't we keep working? So that's what I think is so exciting about where we are today as a world, and, we, the older ones, need to think about the youth and make sure that they have what they need to lead through what are going to be some, challenging times.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love everything that you're saying. And I agree with you. I think that, and even on education, my husband and I just had this conversation the other day. I'm like, I don't know why we think we have to just like stop learning things. It's like the brain can still pick up things and we just decide, oh, well, I learned that. Don't need to learn anything else. No, we always need to be learning.
Exactly.
And I love that you got a whole psychology background. I love all that. I'm totally like, I was reading your bio and I'm like, oh my gosh, that just means there's so much in that you can, I'm sure have used in your work and what you're doing now and just understanding people and things. And I always love talking to psychology people.
Yeah, I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, but when I got out of college, my mom made it very clear that I wouldn't have a bedroom in the home. Not that she was mean or anything, but she downsized to a 2-bedroom for her and my little brother. And I was like, oh, shoot, I guess I have to, delay going straight into grad school. And so I ended up working for a while, getting my organizational psychology degree, applying that to business. And it was the best thing I ever did. Yeah. I think it's important to understand the emotional world of humans.
I agree. I just had a guy on I talked to earlier this week that, well, first of all, I worked with a mentor for a while who his mother was a psychologist. So it was really fun because we got to learn a lot of applying psychology and sales and working with, how you get people to do things and stuff like that. It was really good, eye opener. But I had a guy on this week that I interviewed, and he wrote a book called Brain Glue. There's more to the title, but the idea is how to get people to buy things, like how to understand how to differentiate yourself so that people, like he was talking about like the squatty potty and how they, like Richard Branson, how he did the Virgin Records, Virgin Air, like the way people use wording and stuff. So I think psychology, it's not just about understanding people, right? Like around that are just in your immediate circle, but it applies in sales and business. It transfers really into everything.
100%. Yeah. But two of my nonprofit clients are both projects have been highly political, right? One of them is dealing with a union. The other one is dealing with a global board of directors with often opposing needs and wishes, and, advising my CEO clients on how do you navigate some of that, get the stakeholders to yes. Be a politician, be really clear in your messaging, stay on message. How do you sound confident when you're trying to really sell your idea when you have a lot of headwinds? So yeah, that's a life skill that everyone needs to have. So certainly for corporate survivability.
Yeah, I think it's good. I didn't study anything like you did. Like I said, I've just learned things working with, coaches and stuff like that. But it's interesting, like when you start learning how to navigate situations and why people are behaving the way they're behaving, and you can back up. I always talk about subject object shift and when you're working with people and stuff. And so it's like, once you learn some of those things, you can really, I think it works to your advantage in a lot of ways, not in a negative way, more in how you respond to people, react to people, how you recognize what people are doing. And because we can only ever really control ourselves, right? And we play a part in everything that happens. So I think it's good. I know it certainly has helped you along the way. So it's good.
Well, I'm a woman who was often the only woman on the leadership team, only woman, on the account. And that's just a function of, the demographics of when I grew up, the very few mentors. And I tried to fit in by acting like a guy, sure. You know what I mean? And thought being aggressive was the answer. But of course, that's the opposite answer for a female, because then she gets labeled as shrill or sharp elbowed, right? So it's a journey, to learn, how to be feminine and strong at the same time. And there's so many role models nowadays. But back when I was growing up in my career, I really didn't have very many of them, and lots of fumbles and stumbles along the way for sure. But it really is thinking about, who your audience is and what is it that you want from them.
Right.
And what's your message and how are you going to get that across and stick to it.
That's right.
With
I love it.
confidence.
Barbara, this has been fun. I wanted to ask you a fun question. I don't think this was in the questions I sent you, but I think you'll be okay.
Yeah.
If you had to sum you up in a word, like a word or two, what would you say?
Well, yeah. Okay. Complicated,
I love it.
Complicated.
That complex. That's a better way. Like complex.
Complex. Yeah. Oftentimes I feel misunderstood, and I feel like I can be polarizing, over the years, I have a following of people who are junior to me who I still am such good friends with. I go to their weddings and it's not a huge group of people, but these were relationships that were so strong and so deep, and I have one or two former bosses where that's the truth as well. I look at some other people and they just have this wide, broad network and everybody's in it. And that's not me, know? So, right. I think I'm generous and kind. I'm a great listener, relationship builder. I also, though, am an anxious person. And sometimes that can come across as intense, going it on my own, solo, not slowing down enough for everyone else. And, it could come across as worried and insecure. Instead, it's more like, oh, I'm sort of ruminating on something and I'm worried about it. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that, that complexity is, over the years, you learn how to deal with those sorts of traits that maybe not serve us all as well as we wish that they would, but they're still part of who we are.
Yeah.
So how do you honor that part of who you are, but also move through life with a little more grace, for your own mental health, but also, just for the fun, of having fun at work. And so it's been a complicated journey, like I got a anxiety diagnosis, a formal one in 2021. I was like, oh my God, that explains so much. When I was in that meeting and I said that, and I was such a jerk. It wasn't because I was a jerk. It's because I was like feeling all of these things and I was anxious. And so, that's, you got to go through life willing to really look inside.
I think so too. Yeah.
Really look inside yourself. Google does a lot of stuff around introspection and understanding yourself. And I hate it. I don't like it. But, so anyway, so it's been a complex existence, but it's a wonderful one.
Yeah, no, that's good that you said all that. And I ask that question every once in a while. And I asked you because I know you have the psychology background. That's why I really wanted to ask you that. But I think it is good when we go introspective. Like we know, because I do that sometimes too. I build relationships pretty easy, but I'm not a person that I don't have a lot of like friends that I like hang out with all the time. I know a lot of people and I have no problem having conversations with people. But I'm okay with stopping it right there. Like I don't need all of that around. And sometimes I can be direct and driven and focused and people think I'm just walking on their shoes, and it's not. I just want to get done what I got to do before I forget to get it done. I need to get it off and check it off the list because I got 500 things going. So I can relate to that in some levels because people will say I'm intense, and it's not that I'm being necessarily intense. It's just I got to get a job done. I got to get from point A to point B. And if you're not walking with me, then I don't have time to mess around. We just got to move. We just got to
And that's got to be okay. Why do we have to look like everybody else in terms of the person that we are and how we show up?
I've learned in my house, it's funny because, when you have, every different people personalities in the house, you realize some of your kids are like your husband, some are like you. And it's funny. I always joke about this because I know my husband is going to take a little slower moving from point A to point B. I'm like, dude, are you going to do it or you're not going to do it? Because I'm going to take care of it if you're not. And I just say it. I'm like, I got to get it done. So I can certainly appreciate what you're saying for all of that. So, and I like
right on.
It's good. It's good. So, okay. So let's say our audience wants to get in touch with you. They want to keep up, see what you're doing. They want to see what this Two Rivers in Partners is about and all of this good stuff. Where do we want to send them?
Well, I got a website. It's tworiverspartners.com, of course. And I'm really active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I love LinkedIn, although I'm a little bit mad at LinkedIn right now because they changed their algorithm yet again.
Oh my
and
God.
I never find the people that I want. I follow you. I'm like, where's Jennifer?
Yeah.
But LinkedIn, I'm really active. I have a newsletter and I'm always posting things. But yeah, probably my website and LinkedIn are probably the best places to locate me.
Cool. We'll make sure too when we get the editor gets all the bells and whistles on there, we'll get the web page in there so people know how to find it in there. So cool stuff. All right. Well, I love what you're doing. I enjoy chatting with you. I think you're an amazing person. You're doing a lot of cool things. And I love that you're just still grooving and doing your thing and loving it. And that's what I think is the best about when I say living the extraordinary is that you're being able to call the shots and decide how you want to live your life and do it your way.
That's right. Freedom, really. And
autonomy. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for having me. I really have enjoyed talking to you. You got great energy.
Thank you. You too. And of course, to our audience, if you enjoy the show, head on over to Apple. You can give us a review over there. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube so we can keep talking to all these fabulous people and sharing the stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. And we will see you next time.